Hey guys, it's Ryan Banta here again. Sorry for being away for so long. When we get to the championship phase of the season, it becomes really difficult to get on here and to do some stuff. And we get into the end of the year school things in terms of checking off all the boxes to officially check out of school and getting grades in and seniors graduating and things like that. A little quick update. We had a really good finish to our season. We were conference champs again for the fourth year in a row. We plaqued at districts for the 11th year out of 12 years. And we also finished second at sectionals. And then at the state championship came away with 5 all-state events. And 3 of those being our sprint relays of 4x1, 4x2, and 4x4. So a lot of people I sent out into the Twitterverse and Facebook and Instagram and asked the question, what do you guys want me to talk about for my first summer video blog about, top 5 things in coaching and life and things like that. And a lot of people have asked me to talk about culture. And interestingly enough, Parkway Central, where I coach at, was not a place that was known for its women's athletic culture outside of a few sports here or there that had regular success. Track and field was not one of them. When I was in high school, we actually had a period of time from 1986 to 1996 where there wasn't a person that earned an all-state medal. Shortly after that time period, we had a coach come in, Dave Harris, also along with his twin brother, and Coach Burnett, who actually is now one of my assistant coaches. They kind of built a nice little program and broke a bunch of school records, and finally we were getting kids to state on a regular basis. And when I first started coaching here at Parkway Central, I didn't really know, what should I be doing? How should I be doing this? What sports should I be trying to coach and improve and all that kind of stuff? And when it really came down to it, it was one of those things where, for me, I knew that we needed to do better and we needed to be a better program. So when we talk about these 5 things, I'm inviting you guys to come join me on my main page, on my main feed, and listen to me talk about these things throughout the summer. So we're going to highlight a few things today in this particular group. First thing is, when we talk about cultural ideas, culture isn't something that just happens, right? It's something that, if you think about the identity of culture, like what it means, what its definition, it's something that's important to a group, place, or thing, and that something is nurtured. And so that's really what culture is. So when we look at that and we think about that for athleticism, well, what are the things that we want kids to do? Well, we want the best athletes in our program to be competing at a high level. Well, sure. But there are a lot of schools that have kids that can do that in spite of a culture being in place, or even a culture that's not that great. And at Parkway Central, when I was at school here, as I told you before, there weren't a lot of programs really knocking it out of the park. And I always felt like female athletes were somewhat being neglected. And so for me, I knew right away that I wanted kids to work really, 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 really hard. But that's only one aspect of having a successful program. You need to have a sisterhood or brotherhood. You need to have fun things that kids do. You need to have something that makes your program unique. Oftentimes having a coach who's relatively eccentric probably helps also. And, success helps breed success, because you could have a great culture and not be very successful. But I think that most of us in sport not only want to have a culture where people have fun and they enjoy it, but I think that they also want to have some sort of success over their competitors. So how do you do that? Well, number one, you need to set some sort of standards. In your program, you have to have standards. You cannot just have a program and expect that kids are going to do the things that you ask them to do when you ask them to do it, or to do it when you're not looking. That is not something that's the real world today. Kids spend more time living in silos and kind of socializing and interacting with things that probably aren't the most beneficial, and certainly aren't things that require extraordinary hard work and discipline. Those are things that, in fact, today, they have a cultural saying, oh, that guy's a try-hard or she's a try-hard. Like, it's not cool to give an effort. That's scary. And so these are the things that we're working against. So having a set of standards and guidelines are really, really important. For us, general rules, the general overarching umbrella rule is to do the right thing in the right way at the right time. if you do those three things and you can answer yes to those three questions with any choice that you make or any behavior that you make, you're going to be in a much better spot. Having those discipline things and having your culture and having your expectation written down on paper is really important. Whether or not you have the kids sign to a honor code or an honor pledge, which there's some data to prove that that really kind of helps things. It certainly helps things when you have to instill some discipline, because here it is, here you signed this like a syllabus in a classroom. So that's useful. What I found is to do it within the first couple of days of setting your standards and expectations is really important. Now, personally, me, I don't do it on the first day because we want to get after it. And the culture is we want to see what the kids are good at, and we want to give them an opportunity to show us what their strengths are. And so we allow them to do that in the first couple of days of practice by USATF testing and flying 30s and standing 30s. And so that way they know, hey, we're going to measure you. We're going to get some information on you so that it's valuable. We also have them fill out a questionnaire that asks a series of questions about their likes, dislikes, favorite poet, favorite musician, words that describe them. And I feel like that's really important too. And I read those and I reference those things when I talk to my athletes so that they know that I value that input and them sharing that information with me. So usually it's probably the second day that we kind of go through our expectations and standards. And that's also where we do our first major team huddle. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about 5 things that you can do to help out your program. And we've already kind of given you a preface with having this set of standards and guidelines. But number 1 is we have a little sister, big sister program. And so what that is that kids who have already been in the program, they are responsible for mentoring and helping the younger athletes on the program learn the rules of the road, learn what the expectations are, and to help them teach skills that aren't very easy. When they first start to do running drills and exercises in the weight room or stretch routines and things like that, it can be very challenging. It's a lot of information coming at them all at one time. And so how we do this is the little sister will provide the runner a bottle, and it's like usually like puff painted or something like that that's special for them. A lot of times they'll give them candy or anything, and we induct our athletes into our program when the little sisters do that for their big sisters. And I actually give them a red carnation because in my fraternity, Tau Kappa Epsilon, the red carnation was kind of an important symbol in our fraternity. And so I hand them a carnation, and then the big sisters will say something nice about the little sisters and how proud they are that they're a part of the team, and they're excited for them and looking forward to their improvement in the program. And when you induct somebody into a program, when you give them a ceremony of belonging, that's really important in terms of getting them to commit for the duration of that season. We've gotten a lot better at not having kids quit, and the little sisters help play a role in that too. And usually the little sister is someone who is within that athlete's event group. So they're spending a lot of time with them. They're building an extra relationship with them. And what's really cool about that is, this kid, whether they're the most socially skilled kid or not, they start out very early in the season with a friend. And so those little sisters are their partners in the weight room, partners when we do our stretching, our static stretching, and they're to help them, when we do our drills and all those types of things. So that's really important. And what ends up happening is oftentimes those little sisters become friends for life with their teammates. And we as coaches have been able to facilitate that. Another thing that we do is on the days of competition, we'll do a thing called team themes. And those team themes can run the gamut of all sorts of stuff. Now, you got to be careful that you don't do anything racially or socially insensitive with your team themes. So we try to keep it relatively simple. Like we'll do blackout days because our school colors are red, black, and white. And so we'll do like all black, and do like black face paint or whatever under the eyes, like football players and stuff. And kids are like, why is everybody in this outfit? And it starts a conversation. Another thing we'll do is we'll do dress nice, dress nice in tennis shoes. And so these girls will wear dresses and nice outfits, but they got tennis shoes on. And people are like, well, why are you all dressed up and you're wearing tennis shoes? Well, we're track athletes. If you wear, stilettos or pumps or whatever, that's not really good on your ankle and your calves and all that stuff the day of a competition. But for the athletes, it's a little odd. So then what it does is it provides an opportunity for a conversation. And they're like, well, hey, we've got a track meet going on today. You guys should come out and watch us. Or, hey, we're doing really good. We just won the DeSoto Invite or the Parkway Quad. And, hey, I just ran a personal best. And sometimes people don't even know that kid's on a team. And so this provides an opportunity for a kid to talk about the really cool things that they're doing and the challenge of track and field and the positives of that. So that's the second thing. And we try to do that on the day. We used to have team breakfasts and stuff like that. Sometimes we do team dinners. And so we make a whole big celebration like, the day before or the day of competition. And we kind of feel like that helps take away from the anxiety when it's done on the day of competition, because it gives them something fun to do, to think about, as opposed to worrying about whether or not, they're going to beat that girl out of the blocks. That's their big rival across town. Another thing that we do is we do some slight rewards. And I know that, my sports psychology training and my master's degree would tell you we want to build intrinsic motivation. And I absolutely agree. This is something that you want to do. But from time to time, you might need some awards that are out there that the kid can go after, that the kid can look to, the kid can go try to get. And that can maybe help them on that day. And so one of the things that we do constantly is we do what's called an interval card. And the interval card is like a reward that we sometimes offer out there if we know the kids have kind of a low energy level and they need an additional challenge to focus their energies, to give them the opportunity to provide the right effort. And so what it is that it's kind of like a little golden ticket that they get, like Willy Wonka. And if they do a really good job, however, we set the standards for the reward of that day, like maybe the best workout from a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, maybe a kid that runs the fastest, most improved time trial time or something like that, because we're looking for that effort. And you won't believe how hard a kid will work, way harder than they normally would work, just for an opportunity for later to cash in that interval card. Now, there are rules to that. They can't do multiple interval cards on a day, and they can't use it for the longest interval in a particular practice. And if they're late or miss, they don't get to use that interval card. But outside of that, at any point in practice, they can use it. If you've got a distance runner or a thrower, then maybe they can cut out of a lift, or a couple miles out of a run, or 10 minutes out of a run, depending on how you run your distance program in terms of mileage versus time under effort. So those are things that we do. Another thing we do is every time a kid gets a personal record, we give them a PR candy bar. And they're those little snack size candy bars, so you don't break the bank, and also you don't want to be promoting diabetes or anything like that. But once in a while, it's okay to say, hey, it's okay to have some sweets. It's okay to have a treat once in a while, something that feels good, tastes good. And I think that also helps when you're coaching women to not have them be super obsessed with their weight. One of the things that we talk about with our kids is, I don't care how much you weigh, it's how do you perform and how do you feel in your clothes. Those are the things that are really the most important. Don't get so obsessed with the number, because I tell kids all the time, you believe that in track and field it'll probably make you lighter, but more than likely, because of all the lifting we're doing and the running that we're doing, your muscles and your legs and your overall strength goes way up. And so you're probably going to gain a little bit of weight, and that's okay. And when we do the PR bar, we do it at probably the first or second day of the week. And we have all the kids stand in a semicircle around the program who got personal records. And we do what's called a Colt clap, where we clap one time for every PR they got over the course of that week. So if they got 3, we go, or whatever. And then they come get their PR bar, and then they sit down, and we keep moving through. And it's really cool, like when we have like 20 or 30 of them, and the kids can all around go, oh my gosh, everybody's really improving. So even if you didn't win the race that day or beat your crosstown rival, if you got a personal record, that's another thing that you can feel really good about. And a whole bunch of other people in your program, whether they're the fastest kid or the best thrower or jumper on your team, can also feel really good about. So that's a very valuable thing. Another thing we do, and this is kind of stolen from the idea that Tony Holler put out there, which is record, rank, and publish. And what that is for us is, and I know that Tony they do like the 10-meter flies, and they record those things, and they put it out on social media. What we'll do oftentimes, and we do some of that too, but we do a thing called an all-world list versus a top 10. Because the longer you coach, and this is my 17th year coaching track and my 16th year as the head girls coach, the longer you coach, the harder that top 10 list gets to be on. Those performances look like these people were gods. And, Steve Magnus talks about this. They're ordinary people, just like you and me. They just happen to have a good skill set, or they were really a hard worker or improved over the time. Doesn't matter. They're ordinary people, but those performances to a kid coming into your program can be somewhat intimidating. So what we do instead in our little media guide or our history book of track that we hand to the kids at the beginning of the season, at the end of the season, is we have a standard. And so that all world standard. So like at our high school, I coach at a small school in the suburban area, and we have our own challenges and strengths and weaknesses, but we chose 13.1 for the 100-meter dash for girls as a cutoff. And you're like, well, 13.1 is not that fast. Of course. It's fast enough in our area where if you're running 13.1, you're probably scoring in one of the top 8 spots in a varsity meet. So it's a nice carrot to get you thinking about performing and reaching a time and getting that. And then from there on out throughout history, as long as I'm coaching, that list will continue to grow. And so my hope is, 15 some odd years from now, when I retire from coaching at Parkway Central, that this book will be as big as the Sprinters Compendium, but just of stats and times that kids have performed over time. And we do that for all of the throws and the jumps and the running events and the relays. And that way those kids can see those numbers over time, and that gives them something where they're, hey, I can't get in the top 10, but man, I'd really like to be all world all over these different events and stuff like that. And that's really cool. And over time, we've had to adjust those performances because maybe we got a little bit better at coaching a certain event. And so sometimes what those performances used to be like special might not be as special. But over the last 10 years, we haven't had to adjust that much because we've kind of dialed in what it really means to be an all-world achieving athlete in our program. So that's something that we do. The other thing, when we talk about recording, is social media is a big thing. And if you want to help have kids in your program, you need to talk them up. You need to say things about them in a positive way and just put as much positive energy out there into the universe as you possibly can. So, I have an Instagram, a Twitter, and Facebook. And so, as many opportunities as I can say and positive things about our kids qualifying the state or the championships or the plaques that we've won. Some people might feel that is braggadocio, but it is in a way. But it also really goes a long way to promote your program, especially to alumni or kids who used to be, a part of your program and maybe have moved. The parents love to see that stuff. The kids love that stuff, and they think that's so cool. And there's nothing wrong with putting positive energy out there and sharing things, obviously, with permission, and certain workouts or exercise that we do and stuff that we feel is unique to our program. So that's really important. The Team Huddle. So the Team Huddle is something that you do every day, but it's not the same every day. So there are opportunities where we'll talk from, just, hey, here are the particulars for the meet. Here are the times. We got to be on the bus. Here's the roster of who's doing what in the meet. But then sometimes there's the opportunity to attack a problem that maybe is program-wide. So in the world that we're in now, people think that pressure is a bad thing. People think that anxiety is a bad thing. The reality is that you don't get tougher, you don't get gritty without a little bit of pressure and a little bit of nerves. That's what makes us strong. Now, we don't want those kids to be floating out there in the vast ocean of stress without some sort of buoy or rope to help them out. So one of the things that we do in that Team Huddle is we always have like a quote of the day that we'll either put out there at the beginning of practice, or when we go into the weight room, we write it on the wall. But we use that Team Huddle as that theme of whatever we're trying to achieve or attack that week. So, for example, if we feel that we need to deal with framing a bad situation and making the best of it, we'll talk about that. And we actually go through that with our kids. And we did that a lot in cross country because those kids spend so much time in their head and it's a one and done race. And so it's really important to do that. And we'll do things in terms of like, this is the significance of this meet and the history behind this, or this is why we're choosing to do this team theme. And it's more special than you would really think it is because somebody had gone through something really tough at this time years ago, and we always want to honor our teammates and former athletes in Parkway. And it's also an opportunity for you guys to build your program, to build your expectations, to model those things, to have your athletes understand what the purpose is of your workout for that day. Sometimes kids have no idea how this fits into the grand scheme of things, and you better know how it fits into the grand scheme of things, or you're doing your team a disservice. You don't have to be wedded to a plan, but if it's on paper, you have your thoughts, probably need to do something that fits or facilitates whatever you were trying to get done that day, even if it needs to be smaller, less intense, or whatever. But whatever that may be, it's your job to tell them in the team huddle, this is why we're doing this. This is why we're doing this workout with short recovery, where on Mondays we have huge recovery, because the things that we're trying to improve or have your body adaptate to could be completely different. It's not a time to use big, crazy words that kids don't understand, but to explain things in a language that makes sense to them. Okay. The last thing is you need to make sure you're setting the tone. Sometimes that's hard to do. As a coach, especially particular athletes sense things on your face or your attitude or your posture. And it's really important for you to be the tip of the spear in terms of your expectations. So if you want your team to be positive and be bubbly and be excited, you're going to have to be that sometimes. You're going to have to model that for your athletes. If you want your athletes to be serious or understand the level of intensity that's expected, sometimes you've got to be pretty darn intense too. And you've got to set the tone. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to be cussing and screaming and yelling at everybody. That's not productive. But you can be very intense quietly. You can pull an athlete to the side and explain to them how, the effort that they're giving is not appropriate. And you can show them the numbers at that time, and you can tell them what you want. And you may not win that particular battle on that particular day, but over time, you will win a lot of those. We had a young lady that trained with us in winter conditioning, and she wasn't necessarily instantly the hardest worker in the program. And it took her a while to understand, that's not our culture. Our culture is you do the expected effort, and you work really hard, and you run fast when we ask you to run fast. You lift heavy when we ask you to lift heavy. Sometimes you lift light. Sometimes you run slow. But it's when we have it in the design to do it. You're not to freelance. And, as time went on, she started to improve and get better. And those conversations are, congratulations. Now, do you trust us? Okay, you trust us. Now let's go further. What can we do to get better? You want kids to do summer track? You probably need to be around once in a while at summer track. You want kids to train in the off season? They won't train on their own. And if they do train on their own, they usually train incorrectly. So you have to set the tone by being there, by being present, by having whatever legally you're allowed to do in the rules of your state that you coach in. You got to be there. And you got to be able to lead from the front. Be the tip of the spear. So in review, 5 things. Okay. Big sister, little sister program. Team themes. Record, rank, publish, social media, okay? Having interval cards and PR bars, some little awards that will help your athletes from time to time when things are tough, to give them something else that helps motivate them occasionally. Not all the time, just once in a while. And then finally, your team huddle quote of the day, expectations, explaining what the workout is to do, and then again, explaining the X's and O's of the things that you've got going on that week and what the kids should expect and what they need to pay attention to. Please put your comments below. If you want to know more about this, I have a really huge write-up where I give detailed examples and samples of this type of program in the Altus Essentials course. Check it out. It is amazing. There's so much stuff there. It's really, really cool with a lot of different coaches from all different levels, high school coaches and club coaches like me, all the way up to professional coaches. And if you really like more about wanting to know more about how you apply this to sprinters, I've got my book, The Sprinter's Compendium, and you can find that at www.sprinterscompendium.com. And I'd love for you guys to put comments and and share this out to anybody you want to share this out to. And please let me know what you think about this talk. And again, now that it's summertime and things have calmed down, I'm committed to trying to get on here at least once a week. But if you guys got things you really want me to talk about, I'll probably come up here more often. I know that a lot of the master athletes wanted me to share ideas and suggestions for all us old farts and what we can do to stay healthy, to run fast. So that'll probably be my next one, and that probably will be in less than a week. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Please share on anything that you can share it on. Bye, guys.